Welcome to Slasher Sunday. So it is Friday the 13th, part 2, special features. And there are two commentaries on here, but it is not said anywhere on the back here. Someone pointed that out to me. And the commentaries are from 2020. They talk about COVID-19 and everything. So these are really, really fucking recent commentaries that these guys are doing. Now, I listened to the one with Terry, Ted, Jeff, and Vicky, and then I listened to a decent amount of the one with Amy Steele, Ginny. And that's where I got the most of what I have to say about this stuff. But yeah, so let's get into it. As I said, this is really just an exploration of the special features for these discs, and not so much the movies themselves. Because having now watched my reviews for them, I quite like my reviews for these movies, so I'm not going to just repeat myself. But anyways, so let's see. Something about the movie, I don't know if I would have said this in my first review. My original review for part 2. This movie features, I would say, arguably the best looking cast, especially the females. I think this has the most babes in the franchise in one film. And the transfer on this movie from this set, from the big box set, is fucking beautiful. Really, I mean, super beautiful. And you get this cover here, and you get the the further away body shot one as the flip cover there. So yeah, we get this commentary with Terry, Ted, Jeff, and Vicky. And the first thing that I noted here was that they said the film took about 6 to 8 weeks. The guy that was there with them thought that the film had shot in about 2 weeks, and he was supposed to be, the expert on this shit. And they were like, no, this shot for about 2 straight months. And a lot of them had finished filming their sequence, their scenes, and were just kept on set out of contractual obligation. They weren't really doing much, so just hanging out on the Friday the 13th part 2 film set, just kicking back and like watching everyone act. Sounds like a dream to me. Now we've got Jeff and Sandra's truck in this. They actually had a different truck that was even bigger than Jeff's. And I guess they met somebody who had the truck that was used in the film, just some random person that was like out and about. And that person talked them into using their truck. And so that's what they went with for the film, which I think is pretty fascinating. They're just like, hey, use my truck. And they kept saying, like, Friday the 13th part 2 was a very on the whim kind of film. Like, they were just kind of like, yeah, fuck it, roll with it. So that's cool. I like to see that. And it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that these films are made so fast. They have to, get the box office results. They have to greenlight the project. They have to find the crew. They have to find the cast. They have to, write the script. They have to film it. They have to go into post. They have to, edit and do the score and all that. And they have to get it all out in a year. I don't think people realize how short of amount of a time that is for that to all take place. Like, it's really, really insane to me that they even got that kind of stuff done. That's why I'm such a fan of the Saw franchise, because of how consistently good they are to me, and the fact that they had no planned sequel in mind when they made the first one. And here you've got sequel after sequel after sequel, 1 year after the next, after the next, after the next, and the plot feels so cohesive and so coherent. I know some people consider it convoluted. I disagree. But yeah, I don't know. Just thinking about something like this that's kind of different than, because you can't compare the Friday the 13th franchise to the Saw franchise when it comes to continuity or thinking ahead or really caring about how it lines up with the other films, because these just don't. I mean, look at what happened with all the people who were asked to return. Sean S. Cunningham, Victor Miller, Tom Savini. Everybody was just like, nah, no. What do you mean, Jason? What I found fascinating is in the segment where they were talking to the dude who wrote the book, the Camp Crystal Lake Memories book. He was saying that, I think that's where it was in this. Dude, I watched like 3 fucking hours. I was doing this. So this is probably one of the longest I've ever spent, taking down notes and whatnot. And I don't even really have that many notes. I don't really have that much to say. So I was kind of annoyed, to be completely honest, when I got done with it. And I was like, I basically just wasted all of my fucking night. I shouldn't say wasted, but I didn't get a lot out of this, but whatever. I always wanted to do this anyways with all of my fucking movies that I own, all the ones that I like and I want to watch the special features on. I've always wanted to do that. And with the big box set, this Friday the 13th box set, of course wanted to check out these special features. So I'm glad that I have. But yeah, it's kind of fun to listen to. The Terry, Ted, Jeff, and Vicky one was much more interesting than the Ginny one. Ginny seems to be more like, she seems to care now to a degree, maybe because this box set's coming out, or maybe because I don't know what her involvement with the films are in the last few years, and she admits this outright. She's like, this series has been more loyal to me than frankly I have been to it, I think is a direct quote. And you can tell in her voice and her demeanor towards things with this that this was something she didn't think would define her career. She really thought she was going to have this big film career, and that this would just be like a stepping stone towards that goal. And along with probably almost everyone but Kevin Bacon with this franchise, they, a lot of those people probably had similar hopes and desires, and none of them really did much else that was bigger than this franchise. So, but anyways, what I was getting at before I went off on a Amy Steele thing is that from the Camp Crystal Lakes guy, he was talking about how Sean S. Cunningham, I want to say it was pitching this idea to the studios of an anthology series set on Friday the 13th, and that they do one a year. And obviously we know now that's the direction that Halloween 3 went in, and, quote unquote failed. I love the film, so it's not a failure to me, but it's obviously a fucking financial failure and kind of a they took a risk. It was a they tested the waters, and it didn't land. It didn't land at all with most people, which is still to this day a pretty big shame. Even though there are some Halloween sequels with Michael Myers I love, namely Part 4. But yeah, just to find that out, I had no clue that Friday the 13th had proposed such an idea to go down that road. So I wonder if, someone caught wind of that in the Halloween world and was like, yeah, we can do that. We'll steal their idea. And obviously that didn't work out so well, but I'm glad it exists. I'm glad Halloween 3 exists. I fucking love the film. But yeah, I mean, obviously they made the television series though too. I say obviously a lot. Like, hey guys, didn't you obviously know this? All these obscure things I'm saying, obviously. What an asshole. But yeah, I mean, they made the TV series, which a lot of us know exists and I own all 3 seasons of. Now, I haven't watched all 3 seasons of it, but that's more in line of an anthology, idea with no Jason involved. So, and I think, yeah, Cunningham was involved with that, right? So that would make sense. I guess they kind of got their idea fulfilled, or their wish granted, and they got 3 fucking seasons out of it. So the thing was fairly successful enough for that. And remember, they were talking about doing a Friday the 13th television series not that long ago. A few years ago, they were talking about doing it. They were talking about doing this found footage one, and then like a movie, I want to say, and then the TV series was just going to be like Jason stalking campers at a campground. I don't really remember exactly what they had been pitching, but that was really heavily considered there for a minute, or at least that's what we were told. The phone booth that Jeff and Sandra stop at, Jeff says, is not a real phone booth. That thing was never actually there, and that they just put it in the shot, which I thought was really interesting. I definitely thought that was a real phone booth that was sitting there, and they just filmed at it. But no, he claims that is a fake phone booth. That's pretty surprising to me. Yeah, I mean, I can't not bring up the fact that, like, now we don't get to see them for confirmation, but we can fill in the blanks with our minds, with our imaginations here. But the best pair of tits in this entire franchise belong to a girl who's, I guess, underage, 17 years old. So yeah, I mean, Sandra's tits in this movie are out of control. Like, just rewatching it now, especially in this like HD clarity, like when she runs to that phone booth, like I have to wonder if when Sandra showed up on set and they saw her tits, they were like, all right, her opening scene is going to be her running a whole fuckload. And then we're going to put her in the next scene. We're going to put her, well, not the next scene, but the next scene, I want to say. We're going to put her in a real small bikini top and just have her kind of bounce around in the woods. Like, it had to be on purpose. I mean, it just had to be. But they're outrageous, man. They really are. Of all the tits that I would want to see in the Friday the 13th franchise, I mean, I know she's underage. She's 17 years old. Although in New York, that's legal, right? Although on film, it doesn't matter where you're at. 18 is 18. But yeah, yeah, you get what I'm throwing down. But she's kind of one of those characters like Kelly Meeker from Halloween 4, where you're just like, oh my God, why? Just show him to me. Show him to me. I've never really committed to memory Camp Packanack. And in this transfer, I was looking at the walls, and there's fucking Camp Packanack, like, flags and signs and shit everywhere, man. I must have saw Packanack like 4 or 5 different times. I was like, holy shit, this really is everywhere. And I honestly just never really paid attention to it because of the clarity. And because I wasn't probably looking, to be honest, to what this camp that they were opening was called. But yeah, Camp Packanack. So there you go. I just, if someone would ask me in a trivia, like, what's the camp that, everyone's trying to open in Friday 2, I would have no fucking clue. I'd be like, oh God, I have no idea. Camp Packanack. There you go. Some trivia for you there that I'm sure some of you know. But I just, for some reason, I don't know. I look at that name and it's not familiar to me at all. So that's just one I've completely overlooked over the years. And I will say this, Reptile Cervical, fucking Ted, the little geeky redheaded guy in this, a lot of people said he was into like martial arts and Taekwondo. Amy Steele said that he taught her something about her posture through his martial arts training and whatnot, that she still remembers to this day. But also, man, like, someone pointed it out in the commentary, and they were like, he was really cut, really, shredded. He's this little guy, but he's fucking 6-pack and, pretty cut. And when I was looking in this, especially at the HD, I was looking at it, I was like, God damn, he really does have a slender, strong physique. We think about him as this nerdy guy, this geek. I know him from this and just one of the guys is Reptile Cervical, and obviously, there we go again, Christine. But yeah, when he has shirt off in this, I was really paying attention after someone mentioned in the commentary, and I'm like, fuck, he is in good shape. He does look like he has a martial arts body. And when everyone was talking about that, I was like, oh, wow, that makes me look at him in a completely different light now. I'm like, could Ted kick my ass? I would always think in my mind, like, Ted's a little geeky wimp. I could beat the shit out of this guy, but maybe not. Maybe he could take me down. That's crazy. It's totally changed my perspective. Someone has now a couple amendments here since my recording my last review, because I grew up watching this as a kid, and the things that I committed to my memory when I was a kid, I just never really questioned as an adult as to why these would be wrong. But one of these things being that Ginny, always thinking of fucking Forrest Gump, Jenny, but this is gin, like the drink. Ginny, who's actually named after the production designer on part 1 and 2, who's Virginia. I wrote it down somewhere. Where is it? Virginia Field. So Ginny's real name in this is supposed to be Ginny Field. But anyway, what the fuck was I talking about? Oh, Ginny is on her period. So in my original review, I had talked about how she was like telling Paul she needed to tell him something, and when I was a kid, I was like, oh, she's got to be pregnant. What else would she want to be telling him right then and there when he's like trying to make moves on her? And then when he puts the beware bears, whatever, on the mirror, I should have fucking put that together, because he talks about, that it's bear country and that girls need to keep clean during their menstrual cycles and all that. I should have put 2 and 2 together, that she was trying to tell him he was on her period, but I don't know why that just never even occurred to me as a thing, because when she was saying it, I was like, oh, she has some big info for this guy. And it's like, we can't fuck because I'm on my period. Just was not that, or we can fuck, but I'm on my period. Whatever kind of girl she is she a Bloody Mary or not? I should have came up with another name for the opposite: a Bloody Mary and a Clean Gary. I have no fucking clue. I got nothing. Come up with something. Come up with something. I want to see in the comments below. A girl who wants to have sex on her period is a Bloody Mary, and a girl who doesn't want to have sex with on her period is what? Give me a name for that. I got some more shit to talk about. We're only 18 minutes in. We're not too much. All right. Anyway, of course, now all I'm trying to do is think of a funny name that would complement that name. Fuck. Come on. Stay focused. All of these guys were talking about how they wrote their own backstories for their characters, because of course there was not, of course, obviously, of course. I've noticed that I've done it before, and it's always annoyed me, but I've never called myself out for it. So I'm very glad that I am, because it's going to make me super fucking aware of it now. There's a lot of things that I'll listen back to when I listen to these reviews later, and I'm like, God, stop fucking doing that. God, shut the fuck up. Stop smacking your lips. Stop doing these things. But some of them are just like regular bodily functions. Some of them are like things you can't really avoid, but they still annoy the fuck out of me. And I guess this is where editing comes in, right? This is where those things typically would work for other people's channels, but because I don't edit, I have to just basically be annoyed as fuck with myself. And anyways, I was gonna go off on a whole tangent of like things that you wouldn't think of that I deal with because of the no edit things, but it doesn't matter. And we also we find out that the title on the script for this movie was just Jason, which is interesting. I don't think that they could have released this under that title. But Friday the 13th Part 2, Jason Lives, I think would have been. I've never thought about that before, but Jason Lives Here would actually work really well as well. Just to kind of let the audience know right in the title what this one's going to be about. Never really thought of a subtitle for this one because we don't really get a subtitle until the fourth movie. I mean, unless you count 3D, but I wouldn't count that as a subtitle. So, final chapter is our first subtitle. But Friday the 13th Part 2, Jason Lives, or Friday the 13th Part 2, Jason. Jason by itself just doesn't work, but nor does it as a subtitle. But Jason Lives, Jason's Return. Yeah, I don't know. Jason Lives, I like that. Friday the 13th Part 2, Jason Lives. I actually like that better than, Jason Returns for Jason Lives in Part 6, but I don't know. It works perfectly in 6 too. Don't get me wrong. It's Jason comes back from the dead, but so does he in this, right? So, anyway. I didn't write that down. It just came to me right now. But yeah. So then we find out that Terry, the cute chick in the Mickey Mouse shirt and with the ass sticking out, who gets pelted by a slingshot, and she grabs the wrong cheek for some reason. She actually points that out, or somebody points it out in the commentary, which I thought was funny. They were like, got hit and on the right side or something. I was like, yes, I'm glad that you guys acknowledge that. It's so stupid. You get hit on one side of the ass cheek and you grab the other. I guess, yeah. But anyways, when she was doing her lake scenes where she was naked, she had said that it had like snowed the day before, and that they had to film it that night because they thought the lake was going to freeze over the next night. Holy shit. But she said she grew up in an area where that was no big deal, and she's swam in super cold water all the time, or like has been in cold water, and she was like had no problem. And that she like they were asking for a closed set, but she actually like wanted her friends there with her. So she seemed to be very comfortable with her nudity and her body, and just like doing whatever. And I'll say this: everyone except for Ted Stewart, is his real name. They all were so in love with their experience on this film, and their experience with this film since, and they're very grateful and gracious and kind and sweet and reminiscent of something that we love that they seem to love. Ted or Stewart, he didn't chime in as much from what I could tell, but it was kind of hard to tell who was talking, to be honest, at times. So I could be completely off on that. But Jeff talked way more for sure, and he was really fond of it, as was Vicky and Terry. I know I'm not using their real names, but it would make more sense for me to use those names because those are the names that we're more familiar with. But I was really, really like happy with not only the fact that they were all in the same room together, because that was my biggest complaint of the last commentary, which someone told me, I think Friday the 13th Part 7 has that same thing going on, which is such a fucking shame. But whatever. Yeah, I was just really impressed by how much they seem to love this, how much they seem to actually respect and appreciate and have fond memories and all that stuff. So that's so cool. That's so cool. But also, what was my also? I think I was going to say something else there about them. Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll remember where I was going with that one, but I was really impressed by how much they seem to love this, and that's great. That's great. They still seem to have a pretty good chemistry and friendship with one another, and the girl who played Terry, she just man, she she was fun. She just had such a great time reminiscing about all of this, and they all did. So, anyways, moving on. And they also said that, and maybe this is what I was going to say, that basically everyone on set that like wasn't in the movie, or like tons and tons of people played Jason in this movie. Like every time you see his hands or his feet or whoever, like unless you're like seeing him full on, like everyone, like Washington Gillette and Steve Dash, neither one of them played him during any of the sequences where you only see like his hand or his arm, his leg, any of that stuff. I thought that that was kind of interesting because there's so much discussion on who's the real Jason in this movie and blah blah blah. But anyway, and they also pointed something out here that I don't think I noticed because I haven't watched my Friday 2 review in a little while. Um, but they point out, I think it's Vicky herself that points out, why is Vicky looking for Mark upstairs? I thought that was so funny when she pointed that out. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch my review to see if I noticed that. But I don't remember noticing that, and that's fucking funny. I think she was just looking for anyone. I could explain it away, but man, 3 fucking hours of that documentary and commentary has burnt me out. I was supposed to do Monster Monday tonight, but time that it is, it's 1:20 in the morning. I just don't see that. I haven't even watched it yet, so there's no fucking way, which is a shame. I really, really wanted to get both done tonight. Oh well, what can you do? But yeah, why is Vicky looking for Mark upstairs? That's fucking hilarious. I don't know if I ever made that connection, but I'm gonna watch my review soon and see. Maybe I did. And yeah, okay, so that's everything I have to say about the commentary of them. Amy Steele's commentary, she lets on that her and Adrian King became good friends after her filming or on the set and since. That was pretty cool. I mentioned a couple things already, like production designer, whatnot. And then Amy hadn't seen part 1 until many years later when they did like a double feature, and she was invited. She was there with Adrian, and she like looked over at her and was like, I don't think I've ever seen this movie, which is just crazy. That just, as I said earlier, that just further solidifies to me that she really didn't give a fuck about these movies, and she outright says, I'm not a horror fan. I'm not a horror fan, which she doesn't have to be. You don't have to be. You don't have to be into horror at all. She's probably the most revered final girl in the entire franchise, and she doesn't even like horror movies. So, I think people need to understand that just because you're a fan of something or not a fan of something doesn't really mean anything. Not really. And she points out that because they were using film and not digital, because digital didn't exist back then, that they had a 3-take max because of the cost of film, because of all that. They had a 3-take max. So every single thing you see in this film, I'm assuming from what she said there, don't quote me on that. I mean, maybe there's more scenes. Maybe there's scenes where they just kept fucking up like 10 times in a row. But from what she said, it seemed like 3 takes and you either got it or you don't got it. I hate the yawning. I hate it so much. I want to break my jaw when I do it. Like, just, that'll stop it. Although I wouldn't be able to talk, so that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of a channel. But yeah, 3-take max. That's pretty wild, man. Especially, I mean, imagine Kubrick. Imagine Kubrick being limited to only 3 takes per shot. Holy fuck. And let's see. Yeah, I already mentioned the rest of the things I'd written down. All right. Then I listened to the Amy Steele interview. It's a 30-minute podcast interview that's about, what did I already say, 30 minutes? It's from 2016. And what did I gain from listening to all of that? To tell you guys, nothing. Zero. I have nothing to say from that interview. I listened the whole time, and it was basically just kind of rehash of her commentary, if anything, and then like stuff from her life that I have no interest in speaking on here. So that was a complete waste of time. Maybe I would have had more to say about her commentary had I listened to all of it, but honestly, I'm not sure what more I would have gained, but who knows, maybe something huge, and you guys can let me know below. All right, now to talk about the most important and the thing that people wanted the most by far when it came to Friday the 13th Part 2, the thing that kind of holds it back from being number one possibly in this franchise. I still, even with the kills in it, I don't think, no, for sure Part 2 would not overtake Part 4 for me, just because the characters in Part 4 are better. Like, I like everything about Part 4 better, even with these kill scenes. But this is still second place, and it's a stronger second place with these scenes if we could ever one day get them reinserted into the film, clean them up, add the music, add the sound effects, get fucking Adrienne King to come in and do a scream for you that matches up with her kill, or get Marta, Sandra in there to record her voice, whatever you got to do, clean it up, put it in the film, get Harry Manfredini freaking do a little bit an extra score. You could really sell Part 2. You could charge 40 fucking bucks for it, man, and people would buy it. You could charge $50 for it, and people would buy it. Shit, Friday the 13th fans probably pay $100 fucking for it. But anyways, we get Alice's death in the opening, and this is a better version. I do like the one in the movie where she gets the ice pick through the head, or whatever the hell it is, screwdriver, and she puts it through her head, and it slides into her brain, and she kind of screams out, and then it cuts, right? And then he takes the pot off the for the stove for some fucking weird reason I'll never understand, but whatever. So he puts it through her head, and then she turns and looks at the camera, and it's coming out through her, basically her nose here and out, and that's fucking awesome. That's awesome. That would have elevated the kill so much. So really, really cool to see it like poking through her face. So I love that. I love that and wish it was in the film for sure. Next we have Ralph's death, which he just kind of dies slower and like slowly goes out of frame. Lame. No need for me to even see this at all. The cop who gets the hammer in the head, little blood spray comes out of the hammer. So very, very mild difference there. And then we've got the stalking pervert's death. I can't remember that guy's name in the movie, but whatever. When he gets his throat slit, this shit is way, way longer. The blood is just pouring down his face into his eyes. I mean, it is gushing. This is much better. This is much, much better, because hanging a guy upside down and slitting his throat is going to cause a fuck ton of blood to spill everywhere. And so for them to kind of, hold back on that's super annoying. Like, that's what we want to see in that. And this is a much better example of that. It is free flowing. It's all over him. He's screaming. He's tossing around. It's awesome. It's awesome. All right. And then, of course, but this really isn't, of course, the most infamous scene from the franchise. A picture of this existed on a back of a VHS box or something. I swear to God, I saw this picture growing up. I swear to God, it was on like a VHS box, and it was Sandra and Jeff being impaled, and actually seeing it through the back of them sitting there. It's like a production still or something. I swear to God, when I was a kid, I saw that photo on the back of like a VHS box. Please, someone link me to a picture of that. I swear I saw it when I was growing up. And I was always like, why isn't that in the movie? Where the fuck is that in the movie? And I've heard about this for years and years and years. The footage is lost, whatever. And I think it was Tom Savini or somebody had it on VHS. The cut footage, thank God. And so we finally get to see the infamous Jeff and Sandra impaling shot. This is what we've always wanted to see. And yeah, I mean, it's much better for sure to see the spear go into Jeff's back and actually blood coming out of it as he pushes it through. Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. That's the way it should look in the film, for sure. 1,000%. That should be in the movie. And the MPAA can fuck themselves. I don't understand why that would get an X rating. I just don't get it. It's angering to me, but here we got it again. It's fantastic to see it finally. It's like something you've been dreaming for years, finally coming to fruition. So thank you so much to whoever gave Scream Factory that copy, and thanks to Scream Factory for putting it out. And Vicky's death is really no different, except for they pan over. She falls out of frame. And then they pan over to Jeff's dead corpse just hanging there, which is pretty cool. And I've noticed Jeff's there next to her as she's screaming, and bruised nail Jason's coming at her. But I never really focused on him before this transfer. But this transfer's so clean that you can see Jeff so clearly that it's like, oh shit, there's Jeff, and he looks fucking mangled. This is great. So love it. Love the inclusion. And then it pans over to him. And then we see the head, Pamela Voorhees' head, that. And they get the close-up on it. And I'm thinking, oh shit, they talked about how they filmed or talked about, yeah, they did film her eyes opening, because they were going to do that as an alternate ending to try to show that Paul did in fact die. But at least that's what they said on one of the commentaries, or no, it was the book guy, the guy talking about his book, because it was going to be like, where's Paul? And then it was going to cut to her and she's going to smile. So that's supposed to signify Paul's dead. I still don't buy it. Paul's alive, but whatever. I digress. So yeah, there's that. And then one really cool thing I found in here was they show Betsy Palmer for like a second, and she's at a convention and she's signing photographs and whatever, and she's talking about this photo she has of her on like plastic. She's like screaming, and plastic is in front of her, and she's like got her arms up and she's screaming. And that is one of the photos. That's the one I remember the best. That's one of the photos she sent me when I did her daughter's hair, and she gave me the manila envelope with the address and asked her to sign them or whatever. But that was the picture, and she put in the note, the letter where she's kind of scolded me for not putting postage, but she also put in that note something about that photo. She actually wrote a pretty lengthy letter, like a couple pages, and went on about how the she was there, and there was like there was like a plastic drape or whatever, and they were taking production stills. Or I don't remember what the hell. God, it's been so long since I read the letter. I wish I could find that thing. Maybe one day it'll turn up. Maybe one day, Jesus. But when she showed the picture in here, which I was like, oh my God, there it is, the plastic she's put in her face. I haven't seen it since she sent it to me. I haven't seen that photo. I haven't Googled it or anything. I'm sure it's on Google if I went and looked for it. But she sent that to me, and from what I caught, it seemed like she was telling the person who she was giving the photo to the same thing she wrote in the letter. I'm sure she said this so much it just became like verbatim to her. She could just be like blah blah blah, like she, could repeat it back like a recording. I get that, being a hairdresser, telling the same fucking stories, and where are you from originally? Oh, you Sedona native? You lived here long? Whatever. I'm like, oh my god. I feel like I could, remember in Last Action Hero when Arnold takes the tape and he presses play and it's like, oh, and he just puts it next to his wife on the phone, or his girlfriend or ex-wife, I want to say. It's been a while. And he just like puts the phone down next to it and he just, oh, okay. Yeah, that's the way I feel when I'm at the salon. I feel like I could just like record something and just put it like on my lap as I'm cutting, and just people would be like, so where are you from? And I have it perfectly timed out. I feel like I could almost do it. But anyways, Friday the 13th part 2. Yeah, I mean, this, yeah, the commentaries, the first one was fun for sure, and then everything else, like I watched that the Lost Tales of Camp Blood, or whatever the fuck that thing is called, and dude, that was lame as fuck. I don't understand why they're including these fan films. Like, there's much better fan films, so I don't understand the inclusion of these at all. Then they did a horror convention one. Terrible. I thought that was stupid as well. It was completely unnoteworthy. Just like, we set up a horror convention and people come to it, and they just keep like talking about how the people at the horror conventions are commenting on how their venue has been thought out better than other people's. It felt like a promotion for their venue. Like, does Scream Factory get a kickback from their, like, ticket sales or something? Like, I'm confused by all of that, because it was just completely uninformative. And there was Ari Lehman again, just being like, I've been embraced by the family, and I go to like 6-7 of these conventions a year, and it's like, bro, you were fucking Jason for literally 2 seconds. But yeah, anyways. Well, I'll see you next. I don't know what I'm going to say. I was going to say that this hasn't been as fun as I was hoping it was going to be, but I don't want to say that because I don't want to seem like a downer. But this one just kind of beat me up a little bit because I sat here for like 3 hours listening and watching, and I felt like I didn't write down much. Like, on Friday 1, I wrote down 3 pages. 3 pages of notes. On this one, I didn't even write down a full page. And I was like, damn. And I probably only spent 2 hours with Friday 1, as to where with Friday 2, I spent over 3 hours. And I have way less to say, even though this video seems to only be about 15 minutes shorter. So I still somehow figure out how to fucking talk for a long period of time. But whatever. Part 3 will be more fun. I hope you guys got something out of this. Adios.